Will Lucas here, Black Tech Green Money. So good to be back with you guys. And I've been looking forward to this episode almost since we started doing this podcast. So I've been waiting for the right time to do it. So he's been like, he's one of my favorite entrepreneurs. But to say the least, I mean, he's an inspirational entrepreneur, a mission-driven entrepreneur. And ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Wilson, Gathering Spot, co-founder and CEO of Gathering Spot, which is a private membership club deeply rooted in community and culture. Atlanta, DC, LA. We got communities in New York City, Chicago, Charlotte, Detroit, Houston, all over the place. Brian Wilson, good to have you.
Hey man, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to speak with you, and deep respect for all
Yeah.
the work that you've been doing over the last forever. It feels
Yeah.
like.
I'm trying. So, yeah, I've heard you talk a lot about the origin story of the Gathering Spot. And we're not going to go there because that story is very well documented. But I am interested in, there was a particular frustration you had with the lack of spaces for, particularly Black people, but diverse professionals to congregate, connect, and get inspired. And what has changed about the landscape from when you had that thought 10-ish or more years ago to today, if anything?
I mean, the fundamentals of why we do this work, that hasn't changed at all. But I do think that specifically this moment, what we do, it's really really important, right? I wasn't fully anticipating that we would be in what feels at times like such a strong backlash to really any attempt to be diverse, equitable, or inclusive. And we knew from the beginning, right, that if we were going to do this, that we were one, going to be in the community business, right, but two, we were also going to make sure that the values of trying to promote real deep connectivity between people that ordinarily wouldn't have met, that was going to be core to the whole effort. So I'm as emboldened as I've ever been in terms of us just like needing to make sure that we do what we do well, because this moment really requires it.
Let's go in there. I wasn't planning to go here, but you make me think about what's different or more important for the work that you do to make sure that Black people are uplifted now more than it was even a year ago.
Yeah. So look, I mean, to be fair, like our existence, identity, right, culture has always been contested in some way, shape, or form, right? That isn't a 2025 new fact, right? I do think what's new is that it's overt and direct in a way that in some ways makes it easier to address, right? But in other ways, because of just how specific a lot of different groups are being about not wanting to see. I mean, I'll give you a quick example. Will, I had a corporate partner a couple of weeks ago say that they couldn't host an event at TGS because of the company's rollback to DEI efforts. And then when asked, well, like, how does hosting an event at the Gathering Spot, which is a Black-owned business and does have many Black folks that call the club home, the majority of the membership base, how do those two things tie with one another?
Yeah.
How is this a DEI effort?
Yeah.
Really, they couldn't explain, right? I think that there was a quick moment of realization of that, like, wait, hold on, I'm not willing to engage the Gathering Spot because I have been tricked into believing that engaging Black folks during this time is something that's wrong to do.
Yeah.
So that's what's new, right? Like there's a pressure that many people feel like exists to not engage where they were willing to engage 12, 24 months ago.
Maybe a question will come out of this, but you had me thinking about something somebody told me one day, and this, for the sake of the audience, like I've come to Ryan often because I have a social club also. And so Ryan has been super helpful to me just in helping navigate how to do this thing. And so, one of the things somebody said to me a long time ago was like, when some of these corporations join, they're using their DEI budget to do this because, however they are doing it, I'm glad they're here. I appreciate that. And you got me thinking about something Dr. Key talks about, Dr. Key Harmon, who said, we have this conversation about support.
Yeah.
And like when people go to Kroger, I'm not necessarily supporting Kroger.
No.
They just have what I need.
Yep.
And when I go to Costco, I'm not necessarily, I might be supporting Costco, but that's not why I go. They have what I need. And so to your point, like this is space, there's a bar there, there's furniture here, there's a microphone, all the things it's here. So I'm trying to form a question. I just about thinking.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. No,
yeah. So it's like, yes, go. I'll let you
no, I mean, no, I mean, like, I think that's the challenge, and I think that the pushback, right, that we have to continue to have at this moment. We have to take people's values and put that mirror back up and say, wait, hold on. Recently, the type of conversation that we were having was this one, and what I just heard sounds a little bit different / a lot different from what we used to talk about. I just want to understand, is there been a value shift here? Because again, 24 months ago, right, if you go back to 2021, 2022, some of these companies were falling over themselves trying to figure out how to get to black consumers. And then now those same companies, they don't even seem to know like what any of those efforts were remotely about. And I think that's unacceptable, and it requires us to again hold the mirror up and ask critical questions and realize that, look, if there's anything that gives me hope, at the end of the day, the pendulum is absolutely about to swing back. The math requires it. These companies cannot meet their thesis if it doesn't, right? So that's what's fascinating about it. Like, is anybody looking at the math here, right? Because this math equation that y'all are promoting, you will not hit the numbers that you have been talking about hitting without black folks and every other type of folk that you feel like isn't necessary at the moment. When, again, if you look at your P&L, you actually know that statement isn't the truth. So, we got to weather this storm, but ultimately, will it be okay? Yes, it will be okay. The math dictates that it will. It has to be.
Yeah, how do you see you as a representative of what's possible? Because I think about it, I came from like radio, nightclubs, all the things, promoting parties, all of that. And I think about, and I don't know if it's a graduation, but maybe it's just different. Like you and I are in hospitality, food and beverage, and et cetera. And it's different than nightclubs per se. How do you see your role as representative of, we can play in this space too? We can do retreat, which we'll talk about. We can do hotels. We can do these things, fashion houses versus just clubs and just nightclubs.
I think that it doesn't matter what industry we're talking about. Fundamentally, we have to continue to remind people. Right. Again, this is where I love that we still celebrate people that are the first to do things. Right. We still have that's still in our culture a lot. Sometimes what's challenging about some of those moments, though, is that sometimes what's discussed is a little bit ahistorical. Black folks have been doing all of these things for a long time. We've had restaurants. We've been in hoteling. We built big businesses. Right. Like those things have occurred. Right. So a lot of times what I'm trying to do is remind people that this actually is not a new tradition for us. It's an old tradition, and I'm proud to be a part of that continuum. Am I contributing new things? Yes, I believe so, right? But am I the first to do some bit of this? No, right? And I don't need to be the first, right? I need to be a valuable contributor to what I see again as a continuum. But it's hard to become something that you have not seen before, on the other hand, right? So we have to address folks that if you're in the community and you have not seen what I'm talking about, well, it's very hard in any context to become that thing. So I think part of our responsibility is to be vocal, right? So that folks see that, like, not only are we here, but others have been here. And if this is a game that you want to play in, then come into what is a powerful and rich tradition. But I live in Atlanta, man. So like I hear from people that live other places where I guess the day-to-day experience is maybe a little different. But I live in a city where like black folks have been at the highest heights of all of it for a long time. Right. So that gives me a tremendous amount of confidence to know that even when there are things that I know that we haven't accomplished yet, I feel possibility. It's a more of a like, when is this going to occur, and less of an if. Like I feel really confident we're going to get there.
So before we go much further, I want you to talk about what retreat is, because I have a lot of questions that may touch on it, and I want the audience to know like what you're doing now.
Retreat is a new effort from us. That's a new club that's focused on hospitality and wellness and privacy. It's 60,000 square feet of the same things that we've always had from a space perspective, right? So that's event space, restaurant and bar, and workspace. But with Retreat, we have a rooftop pool and just amazing all around amenities, right? But part of our our thesis in the first iteration of Teach Us, the original clubs, we were really trying to figure out how to create an environment where people could work, right? So workspace is a big part of the footprint at any gathering spot, plus event, plus dining, right? But if you're there day to day, the work and event piece really kind of leads that really drives the experience. It's the opposite here at Retreat. The hospitality and the relaxation, less work, right? Like we're not allowing laptops here. If you go to the gathering spot, there's a ton of laptops intentionally, right? So this is it's a new offering from us. We're being really intentional in how we are curating the membership. There are about 150 members and a wait list of like 1,000 people, and we're being very specific about how we continue to add to that group, not with the goal of being stuffy, but with the goal of making sure that the relationships that are being fostered, because this is a very, very social experience broadly, really meet the needs of the membership, right? So I'm excited about it. Again, footprint wise, it's much larger than anything that we've done so far. So the original gathering spot is 25,000 square feet. This club is 60,000. So
Yeah.
it's significantly larger, and we've got 360 views of the entire city. So on one side, you're looking at the entire Atlanta skyline. On the other side, basically looking at the rest of the state, and that's the same side that the sun sets on. So it's a really amazing kind of view of the both the city and the state.
Yeah. How does the expansion into Retreat kind of open the aperture of the mission of TGS?
So I've always wanted two things. I wanted our community to have access to the best of whatever it is that we were talking about, right? And so in this context, it's space. I want our community to have access to the best spaces around. This is world-class space. We can go head to head with any favorite rooftop that you have around, right? I mean, it really is that sort of product. But the second thing is that I've always known that, right, people connect or want to connect for different reasons, right? They're different environments, and so if there's a meaningful community conversation that we need to host, well, that's going to be at the gathering spot. That's the tradition of any gathering spot, right? To host meaningful discussions where we bring everybody together. But if you need a spot to bring your clients or to disconnect, right, to just sit by the pool and be for a second, that's Retreat.
Yeah.
Overall, though, as an entrepreneur, I've always been inspired by the big companies that are out there, right? So what that means to me is the same way that Hilton can have a number of experiences or brands in its portfolio, or Marriott, right, or a car company can have multiple models and different. I believe the gathering spot over time can curate different experiences as well. And so Retreat is our first stop in kind of a broader perspective of different experiences that we'll host.
Shifting gears a little bit, I saw your post that you had put up, I think it was today, yesterday, and you said, this is my first job, and I found that like, I chuckled a little bit inside. So I'm like, my question is, how did you learn to lead, like leading people, in operationalize things, systems, and hold people accountable? How did you learn to do that?
So I'm very honest about the fact that I started my entrepreneurial journey with a huge advantage, right? My parents are entrepreneurs, right? And so I grew up in a context of seeing seeing them in business and learn things that I didn't even know I was learning just by being in the house, right? A quick aside, but I remember when we first started 10 years ago, I was with a member of our team and she heard me leave a voicemail. I left my number. I said my number twice at the end of the voicemail for folks that this is
Born in
before.
1900s.
Yeah, before folks that were born in the olden ages, like me, you used to have to. There were, you couldn't read the voicemail out, so you had to say the number twice so that people could write it down.
Yeah.
Well, she asked me. She was like, "Well, like, how did you know how to do that, right?" And I thought about it and it was like, well, I've been sitting in the car with my parents for years, and every time my dad leaves a voicemail, he would say his number twice to give them an opportunity to write the number down. So I learned a lot that way, right? But then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
rest of it, right? Because you don't pick up everything in the car. The rest of it, I have learned by being open to learning. I haven't been, and I'm not right now a perfect leader, but I'm a person that spends a lot of time in reflection. I know and care about my team, and so when you know and care about folks, you're committed to improving. And so I've just gotten better at knowing how to handle different situations. You learn things early, like the business goes the way that you go, right? Emotionally, if I'm super excited about something, the business might be really excited about it. But if I'm super not interested or down, the business also can be those things too, right? So like
Yeah.
staying as flat as possible, right? That's something that I gained through experience just in working with people. But it's been a decade, right? So if you're committed to growth, which I am, you should be able to look back over a course of a decade of leading things, a business, right, and being responsible for people, knowing that like, well, yes, this is the only job that I've had. I don't expect this to be the only job that anybody else will have had, and I want the skills that they're learning, the experience that they're having, to be meaningful and hopefully complementary to whatever their next opportunity is, right? But I've always taken a really kind of long range view of our relationship with one another. I'm privileged to say our first member of our team, she's been here with us 10 years. Second member of our team, been with us 10 years. Third member of
Yeah.
our team, been with us 9 years, right? So like our core team's been together for a minute.
Yeah.
But there are other people that have come in at different seasons of the business that are doing really amazing things in other contexts right now. And I'm proud that TGS helped to be is a part of their professional journey. And again, I have responsibility there. I have to be a good steward of the time and talent that they're placing with us.
What is in Ryan Wilson's EBC, your everyday carry? Like, what are aside from your phone? Like, what are the things that you wake up to leave the house? This is gonna be on you somewhere.
So I have a backpack, which is not that exciting, right? But like, it's a mobile. I can work from anywhere, right? My backpack has everything that I possibly need: laptop, tablet, every charger that you could need, every adapter that I could buy. I travel a lot, right? We have got locations in different places, right? So as long as I have my bag, I'm good. The thing that honestly that I first thought about, though, when you said that, and this is super not interesting, but it's something that I'm trying to talk about more, especially as this kind of has gone on longer. If you see me these days, I have like a gallon water jug that goes everywhere with me, and it's a part of my daily habit. Like I don't
Yeah.
leave the house without my, like, is it right here? Like I
Yeah.
have this
Yeah. Yeah.
all the time. And the reason why I bring it up, um, I am prioritizing taking care of myself much more than I did when we started.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't at all when we started. I was, I mean, look, the discourse was different when it was 10 years ago, right? So like, it was full. We were right in the middle of hustle culture, grind it
Yeah.
out, and like, if I'm being honest, I'm naturally built that way, right? I don't have a problem with working, um, but I'm prioritizing like rest, water,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
just overall being a lot more overall, um, stronger
Yeah.
than I did when we started. And again, it wasn't even something I talked about historically, but like I have been trying to mention it because you can work yourself to and through these things, right? Like, and out. And I realized that I was on a trajectory that was not sustainable.
What is the best thing you have read or learned recently?
Best thing I've read recently.
Or learned?
That's a great question. So I'm a policy. Uh, I read a lot of like
Let me ask one really ask since you said that.
politics.
When are you running? Let's talk about that.
I run early in the morning, but
No, no. When are you running for
oh,
office?
from say the last part.
For office.
Oh no,
It's
I'm never running for office. I'm gonna go back to what I'm learning. Hold on, I'm running for office. Um, I look. I saw a stat recently, and it affirmed something that I felt like I knew. But like when I saw the stat, it was like, oh wow, 86% of all jobs are secured through a relationship.
okay.
And when I heard that,
Yeah.
it's intuitive in one sense, right? But like, and another, it's like, wait. At the end of the day, any opportunity statistically that you're going to get is through somebody else, right? That you likely know or that person knows.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to overhype this number, right? But I think it helped to continue to reinforce that the relationships that we have every single day that we're facilitating with one another really are the tail of the tape. That they really are the thing that are going to determine a lot of the things that are going on in our lives. And are we investing in meaningful relationships? A lot of cool tools out there. A lot of people liking photos of this, that, and the other, and engaging with people online. And look, cool. I like those as tools. But the relationship, like the actual engagement with one another, super super dope. And the last major book that I just reread Range, which I highly recommend for any entrepreneur. Like highly recommend. It's David Epstein's book, and it basically makes the claim that yes, entrepreneurs are really anybody. Like the most successful people are generalists. They're people who know a lot about a little, and or no, I said that backwards. A little about a lot, and that really people who hyper specialize are the ones that face the most challenges. People who like are only good at like a particular thing. Range again kind of makes the argument that like no,
Yeah.
be as well rounded as possible. Maybe is another way of saying that.
So I'm not gonna forget that I did mention this Ryan Wilson run for office, and you kind of really fastly skated by that one. When I listen to you speak, I hear a future pick one. You know,
I appreciate that. Folks have said that to me before. Look, we're heavily engaged in politics here. Welcome, have welcomed over the course of years, everyone from President Biden to Vice President Harris on multiple occasions, to many sitting United States senators and cabinet secretaries and folks all the way down to school board. Like we've always taken civic engagement really. It's a really kind of core thing that drives what TGS is about. I, though, true to kind of how I see my job at TGS, like to be the facilitator, the connector of those candidates to people that I know and care about, or being able to have a platform in TGS that can highlight issues that are really important to us. If I'm being super, super plain about this, though, like I also like being able to say what I want to say, kind of how I want to say it. And I think one of the early sacrifices that you have to make as a politician is that constant negotiation of how to say this, that, or the other. Well, like my stakeholders are the gathering spot community, and I'm really in tune with what they think and feel about our work. But it's a very different context than being an elected official.
Yeah.
And in this season of my life, I couldn't predict that I would be doing this. I went to school to be I was in law school, graduated from law school immediately before starting TGS. So I did not imagine that I would be an entrepreneur. I do not imagine running or seeking office, but I always will be engaged because I had a professor years ago say, people that try to make the argument that they're not politically involved, like what does that mean? It's all politics. The way that we're having this conversation, from the microphone that you're using to,
Yeah.
the lights that are on in both the rooms that we're in, it's all politics. It's all regulated and controlled in some way, or influenced by government. So it's
Yeah.
our responsibility to lean into that rather than to act as if there is some world that we can exist in that's outside of the realm of politics. Because again, I mean, what world is that? We're all in it right now.
Yeah. You talked about your parents and the influence they had, even when you weren't even conscious that the influence of entrepreneurship was there. Many of us in our community don't come from entrepreneurial households. And so, but that doesn't rule those folks out. What advice for people do you give when they didn't grow up seeing this, when they're not in Atlanta? I love how you said, like, I'm in Atlanta, I'm seeing this every day. Black people are at the top of everything. But most of us, just by numbers, don't live there.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very dense, but most of us are all over in
Yep.
communities where we don't see, Black people at the highest level. So in both those respects, how do you convince, advise, inspire Black people to be something that they have not seen in their immediate?
I'm going to answer the question that you just asked me, and I'm going to answer a question that you didn't ask me. Of the question that you did ask me. Look, the people that you think have it all figured out or know everything about a given thing, I can promise you that they don't. Right? This morning I woke up trying to figure out how to figure it out. Anybody that you know and respect did the same. Right? I just at a very fundamental level. Now, is there access, knowledge, skill sets that are built over time? Absolutely, right? But and this is a fairly kind of old school value, right? But I went to Georgetown for undergrad, and I believed, and still, I got to, I remember being at convocation, and they asked all of the valedictorians and salutatorians to stand up, and that was not me. And I remember looking around being like, why am I in here?
Mm-hmm.
But then we got into class, we got into the arena, and I saw pretty quickly that I was willing to go to places that I was not sure that those folks were willing to go to. All the valedictorians, all the smart people. My mother had sent me up to DC to get that degree, and I was coming back home with the paperwork. And again, I know that I'm willing to go to, you're not going to outwork me. Yes, you started, right, with whatever advantage, right? But and I'm talking about this on an individual level, right? Systemically, there's some other things for us to address, but individually, I am not going to sit here and believe that all of the good, big, fancy, whatever, right? All the cool stuff is for you, and that my job is just to sit here and take the scraps.
Yeah.
So I don't care where I'm starting the conversation. I just I fundamentally do not believe that fact. Now, the question you didn't ask me is, and where I think we need to spend more time, is that if you have some of that privilege, right, even a little bit of it, you have a responsibility to make sure that you are pouring into someone else that doesn't. This morning, the day we're having this conversation, I spent time with youth. I regularly prioritize spending time with youth to try to close the exact gap that you're talking about. So
Yeah.
I have less advice, honestly, for what to do if you don't have it, and a ton to say to people when you do have it. You have a responsibility to do something with it, right? Personal gain for the pursuit of just having it, one, isn't that fulfilling at the end of the day, and two, if you can show up positively in a person's story as the person that helped to make a difference, to me, there's no higher honor that you can have in a person's life. And so again, if you've been blessed to be a blessing, then please do so. Please act accordingly. And that to me is where we don't put as much pressure often. We spend so much time on the other side of the equation, with all these tips and tricks. When if we would take that energy and just say, hey, cohort of people that, again, have been blessed just by circumstance a lot of times, right? Had this opportunity or that one, go facilitate at least one other person having it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you disagree with me, I don't know much what to say to you, but I will say that I would urge you to reconsider. Our community especially, and again, I'm talking on an individual level right now. Systemically, a lot of what I just said is you can't overcome some of the systemic barriers that I'm talking about by working hard, right? And a lot of my work is really looking at systems, right? The system that we live in right now, the fundamentals of a lot of aspects of that system. I'll give you a quick one.
Yeah.
If you were born on the west side of Atlanta, right, you have about a 4% chance of escaping poverty. Said differently, there's a 96% chance that if you're born into poverty that you're going to die in it.
That's right. Yeah.
In that same neighborhood, right? If you're on the west side of the city, the life expectancy in Bankhead is 10 years less than if you live in Buckhead. That is a system issue. That isn't the try hard that I just talked about from an individual perspective. So part of what we have to be doing across community, but certainly those of us that have the access to try to alter some of these stats or circumstances that I'm talking about, we have a responsibility to do that too, right? And we have to do it from the lens that, like, I live in this city and it's not helpful to me as a citizen to have people that cannot escape socioeconomic pressures that are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that ultimately are causing them in many ways to die younger.
Yeah.
That is not a city that is helpful for me to live in. And so it is, again, important for me to get active about doing something about it. Yeah.
I got two more, I think. This one, I'm going to ask you the question, then I'm going to tell you why I'm asking, and then I'm going to let you go. So this one is, the question is like, what did you learn about investor alignment? So there's stories. Obviously, you went through something a couple of years ago. People can read all about
we can talk about it.
This is actually not really about that directly, but it's more about the alignment or misalignment. And so we've often talked about when you're going to raise money, in our community, don't just get somebody with deep pockets, but get somebody aligned with, where you're trying to go. And my question is, the premise is like, what did you learn looking backward about what would you have done differently to say, okay, we might not be aligned on the future here?
I don't want this to sound like a cliche, but it's just honestly how I feel about it. I wouldn't have done anything differently, right? Like, you make the best decisions that you can as an entrepreneur when you can, right? And so I just don't play the game with this, like, oh, if the set of facts that apply in 2025 applied in 2022 or applied in 2020, right? Like, well, those are different facts than existed in 2022, right? So, like, the fact pattern fundamentally, drives the decision, which drives the outcome, right? So I don't allow myself to get into a mode of like, I can genuinely tell you that I have always made the best decision that I thought possible when I was making it. It was the best decision at that moment, right? Which, again, maybe in hindsight you could say, if I knowing what I know now, I would, but like, my faith is very important to me, right? I don't believe without that chapter of the business that I would be having this conversation to you about this chapter.
Yeah.
I actually don't believe that that season was required in like truly in order to have this season. So for me to regret that would be to be, I guess, regretting this. And I don't regret this. I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
Like, this is the biggest project we've ever had, right? So like, now to your question around alignment, look, I'm fairly simple about this. I call it the cell phone test. When you are talking to a person in real time, and this is a potential investor as an entrepreneur, and if you think to yourself, when I look down at my phone in the future and their name pops up, how will I feel about that when I see their name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Will I be excited to talk to them? Will I think that there's possibility there, that they're going to be helpful, or they're going to at least ask me questions in good faith to try to make the business better? Or are they about to be a person that I really don't know if I can stand? And if you on the front end answer that question, if you're being honest with yourself, as I can't imagine speaking to this person long term, then do not allow them to invest in your business. It's just, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, your gut feeling about a lot of this stuff, especially these things that are less quantitative, it's really just about how, like, actually how you feel about it, really are important. So I would encourage you to ask tough questions, take risks. This whole thing is risky. Again, that's another thing that gets brought up all the time. People are like, oh, well, you know, if you could do this, that. This has all been risk. This has all been impossible in some way, shape, or form, right? Like, was impossible. Scaling it was impossible. Maintaining that was like. So to hyper focus on one moment and be like, what about that one? I'm like, that one, we just came off of COVID. like, and you're asking me.
Yeah.
It's all risky. It all doesn't make sense. We're all trying to figure it out. Yeah. Make the best decision that you can right now. That's all I got. Like, do not play the game with this. There's no such thing as perfect circumstance. You're not going to have the right amount of money or the right team or the right. You got to do the best that you can with what you have, with the cards that are in your hand right now. And so I can tell you in sincerity that I have always played the cards that I've had in front of me out. And in some cases, I looked down at my hand and I had 4 aces and like knew we were about to like run the table.
Yeah.
And then in other times I've looked at my cards and been like, we got to go board and just try to survive. Right. But sorry, if anybody doesn't play spades.
Yeah.
Play spades. That's part of the game. Right? So I don't know. I don't look at it that way. I mean, it is what it is. But every season builds to the next, and not some seasons don't always end positively. I'm not even trying to make this like some sort of rosy. Sometimes there are negative circumstances, but if you talk to even those founders, they will say, look, when my company shut down, when we failed, I learned X, and that helped me to do Y. That's who you're experiencing right now. Y. Without X, though,
that's right.
We're not in the conversation. So again, I don't mean for that to sound cliche, but it's
real.
We get caught up in the like trying to quarterback decisions that were made long ago.
Yeah.
And it's like to what end, right? I mean, we got to do the best for where we're standing.
For the sake of the people who have no idea, what even to Google search or look on AFROTECH.
Yeah, it's fine. We were acquired in 2022 by a fintech. We ended up reacquiring the business a year and change later. It wasn't the best alignment for us as a company, and we professionally kind of went in different directions after that time period, right? And so, where the question comes a lot of times is, would we have gone through that acquisition knowing what we know now? And again, that's not a question that I can really answer, because it was the best decision for us to make at the time that we made it. And here I am now, coming out of that experience with the biggest project that we've ever had, that I do not believe would have happened had we not gone through being acquired and reacquiring the company.
Love it. Last one, and this is, when I read this, I'm like, okay, this is in my top 5 GOAT entrepreneur quotes. And you said it. You said, I think it was the CityLifestyle.com some time ago. You said, we will thrive because our competition barely likes a community that we love. And I'm like, oh, that goes on the wall. Tell me more about like the spirit behind that quote.
Fundamentally, like, I love the community that we serve every single day, right? And so you might have a lot of things, more cash, more space, better investor, whatever, right? But like, I don't believe that any of those things are going to compensate for the fact that every single day I wake up with a team that is deeply focused on caring for our community in a way that I don't believe that you're going to be able to do, because you don't care about them the way that I do, right? So look, at the end of the day, I mean, another way that you maybe could describe this is like customer obsession. Maybe is the startup way to talk about it. But like, I'm obsessed with my customer, my member, my community in a way that, again, like you're just trying to figure out. You're having going back to our previous conversation. You're having DEI talks internally right now, trying to figure out like what the strategy is going to be. I've never once had a DEI conversation inside of TGS, not like that, right? So like, I just feel like we're fundamentally like coming into this game at a disadvantage if you're trying to go get my folks, because again, it's a strategy for you. It's like this is like coming from my soul. So do I think that you can beat me in like soul work? Nah, I don't. I never will ever believe that, right? And if I'm wrong, like you've got to go prove that out to me. Like we've got to go play the game and go see. But I know deep down in places that you don't want to acknowledge. Again, this is a strategy for you. I'm not being strategic. I'm not trying to take advantage of demographic changes. Like this is coming out of like this is fundamental to me. So like
I love it.
Let's lace them up and see what happens next, right? But like I fundamentally think that we win under these. It's to look at sports, and I'm a sports person, but like it's like I'm playing at home. Like you're constantly playing an away game. Like how much better you have to be than me at home to be on the road and and win. There's a reason why there's such thing as a home team advantage for a reason, because like when you're comfortable in an environment that allows you to create and care for all of the things you need to look at differently than like the person that is like trying to get adjusted to the atmosphere. So yeah, I mean, like, again, we've been short stacked a whole bunch of times against a whole bunch of people. I've seen businesses come and go in this game. Respect to them, right? But like a lot of times when they would announce they have these big funding rounds, people would be like, "Are you nervous?" Like, nervous about what? Again, this is a strategy for them.
Yeah,
I'm not. And what happened? The fundamentals survived. You had better space. You had more resources. You had all of it. You came in with you built the technology, owned the real estate, like any sort of thing. But when you had to go heads up against the gathering spot, right? And when care was on the line, your great facility could not outcompete the fact that when folks walked through the door, they felt like they were at home. You couldn't out-home us. And so, respectfully, right? And I'm sure you get this question too. It's like, what happens if X, Y, and Z person comes into the market? Yeah. Come.
That's right.
I live here, right? Like this is what I do. This is the only job I've ever had.
Yeah. There's
no way that just purely out of entrepreneurial pride, that you think that, again, like you care about this from 9 to 5. I care. This is all I do. I don't believe those short hours are going to put you in a position to outwork or beat us. And so that's what I meant. So I'd be like, talk about that long, but it's just like,
I love it.
But every entrepreneur, especially black entrepreneur out there, know that you probably are competing against someone right now that has more. But do they? Right? That's like, do they really at the end of the day, when it gets down to just like pure customer relationship? If it's coming out of your heart, I don't believe so. I don't believe they can beat you. And I'm not trying to take away from the fact, and somebody's gonna hear that and be like, yeah, but they got more money, they building more of this, that. This is a long game. This is a long game. There's a lot of people that have built a lot of things faster than you. It's not actually even, that's not where you win. Can you sustain? I'm looking at a decade right now. Again, I've seen stuff start, close, and restart. The founders are on like their second, third. I'm on my first situation right now.
Yeah.
And it's because I've stayed very, very focused on a community that I love, that you sometimes like. Mm-hmm. If we're just being honest. And sometimes like is even being
generous. Yeah.
That's especially in this environment. Sometimes like is the nice way to say that. Like, we're being really honest. I love a community that you don't really care for, or at least you're not willing to show that care, right? And like, again, that's a dangerous place for you to be in, because if you think that you're gonna out play us in that environment,
Yeah.
okay.